Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
We definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together.
Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. This is Lisa.
And this is Shelly.
And we are here. Shelly went to a movie premiere this week, a movie that comes out this weekend, September 12th, 2025. And we are going to talk about it. She's going to let us know what's special about it. And we're going to play some of her interview clips with the people who are in the movie and made the movie from her red carpet experience this week. Shelly, you want to tell us what the movie is?
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so I got invited by Carmel Communications to come out and cover the premiere of Triumph of the Heart. It is a story that covers St. Maximilian Kolbe's time in Auschwitz, specifically in the starvation bunker. And I represented Catholic mom on the red carpet. And it's kind of a unique thing. It is the second time I got invited, and I'm just really thrilled. So I'm excited to talk about the movie today. I know you're going to ask me about the premiere also, but I just really want everyone to go and see this movie.
Well, I have the synopsis here for the movie, so I'm going to go ahead and share it with our listeners so that they have some background about what the movie is about. And just to be fair, listeners, I have not seen the movie either. So I'm excited to learn more about it, just like you are. All right. Triumph of the Heart. In the harrowing confines of Auschwitz starvation cell, Catholic priest St. Maximilian Kolbe volunteers to die in place of another prisoner, joining 9 others condemned by the Nazis. As despair and fear grip the group, the pressures of starvation, internal ideological division mount. But throughout, Kolbe's appeal to their shared humanity and Polish identity forges a brotherhood that culminates in a poignant act of sacrifice that echoes beyond the cell, illuminating hope in one of history's darkest moments. Shell, there's a lot of movies, documentaries, books, things written and done about St. Maximilian Kolbe and his volunteering to take the place of another prisoner. So I'm going to ask, what makes this movie unique and special?
I think what makes it really unique and special is that it's taking place inside the starvation bunker. There really isn't any historical evidence of the names of the men who were in the starvation bunker. We only know that St. Maximilian Kolbe stepped forward, volunteered, that he went into the bunker. And there are reports from a worker outside of the bunker who remembers hearing the men praying and the men singing. And the singing is a big part of this movie, I think. It's a whole different perspective. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of anything like this before. And it's beautifully done. I mean, when I heard this was a crowdsourced film, it's just kind of a homegrown idea that blossomed and flourished and would not, it just didn't go away. Mm-hmm. And it's been supported and encouraged by so many people. And I remember seeing like the calls for the crowdfunding on social media, but I'm not going to say I didn't think twice about it, but I didn't follow through and make any donations or anything like that. I prayed for them, but nothing substantial in terms of like sending the money or anything. But now that I've seen the film, mm-hmm. I definitely see where God's hand has been in it throughout the entire process. And believe me when I say it's stunning. It does not look like a first-time filmmaker at all. It mm-hmm. looks like something that you would expect a veteran to do.
And I'm seeing on here that it is a full 2 hours, hour and 57 minutes. So it is a full-length feature film. It is not, a short documentary type. And interested to see that they filmed it in Poland.
I know, right? There's mm-hmm. a funny story behind that. They went to Poland when they had the initial seed money, hired the cast, started trying to find places to film it and everything, getting it all produced there. And they didn't speak the language. They had all kinds of issues. I couldn't even repeat all the different ones that I've heard. But they actually were crowdfunding at the end to bring everybody home and do the post-production on it. It was really just incredible speaking to them and seeing that level of faith that it takes. But there were so many people, Lisa, who truly believed in this project.
Mm.
And if I hadn't heard the details, I'd have never guessed that it wasn't one of those big Hollywood blockbusters, truly.
That's awesome.
The acting is phenomenal. And I have to tell you, the cinematography is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And the writing and all of it.
Just what I've seen of the trailer, it does really look beautifully done. Like again, I haven't seen the film, but like it teases just enough that I was like, you kept telling me I'm going to want to see it. And watching the trailer, I'm afraid I'm just going to bawl and cry and, get all emotional, but it does. I think there's something about, even though what unfolds, like in this situation, the end, it's kind of like watching the Titanic, right? The boat's going to go down. Mm-hmm. But seeing the trailer, just a little bit of it, the minute of it, you feel the message that I'm assuming they're trying to put across here. And that's, the hope of God, the hope of faith in the midst of suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about it. I did meet with the writer and director and creative. I mean, he's the one who came up with this whole concept and idea and project. And I did get to speak with him on the red carpet. And I asked him first, like, how long did it take you to write this script? And maybe that's a clip we can play here.
Yes. Let's hear about how it came about from his own words.
Mm-hmm.
It took me about 2 years to write the script. Those 2 years were years where I was really needing hope in my life. I had a chronic insomnia that caused me to be unable to sleep, and intense sleep deprivation is its own kind of torture. And so in that torture, I would wake up from sort of a panic attack and need something to calm me down. And I would meditate on the story of Maximilian Kolbe, but from the perspective of being in the cell, not being the person that he saved, and asking him, what does God say to me? Like, what's God's message to me? If God sent you to save this other man, what about us? Are we abandoned here? And I felt like Kolbe's story and what we wrote and what kind of turned into this movie sort of flowered out of that question that I was beginning to ask St. Maximilian Kolbe in my own suffering.
Can you put yourself in that bunker? What if you were one of the 10 men or the 9 men with Father Kolbe who knew they weren't coming out? If they knew they weren't coming out, what do you do? How do you respond? How do you react? How do you believe in God being there? I mean, that level of desperation and potential madness. I can't imagine it, but he did.
I can say, even though, like, we went a couple of years ago, we were up in the Chicago area. We went to, it was a shrine of Maximilian Kolbe, right? And there
Marytown.
was in Marytown, there was a replication of the cell there. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, yes, that question of how did the men handle it? What did they do? There was so much focus just on St. Maximilian Kolbe, that he prayed and that he sang and, all of that. But I never have thought about the other 9 men, unfortunately. So that this movie brings up an interesting point for me in that I've never contemplated it. And just the humanity of what they went through.
Yeah, it made it very real. And even though the other 9 men and the events that take place in the bunker are reimagined, they are, we'll just say, inspired by Anthony inspired by God through Anthony
Yes.
to put this story together. He uses different people that were representative of those who were incarcerated in Auschwitz at the time. Because here's something I probably had known at one time, but hadn't thought about.
Mhm.
When you talk about Auschwitz, you often think of the final solution, that it was an extermination camp for the Jewish race. But in 1941, from 39 to 41, it was used primarily also as a prison to house political prisoners.
Mhm.
And at the time that Father Kolbe died and these other men died, it was in the transition stages, I'll say. So he's got different characters represent different factions that were there. For example, there's a rabbi, a teacher, science teacher and Torah teacher, his student. There's two Polish soldiers. There's a socialist with the Workers' Party. There's a homosexual, although it's not overt. You have to really listen to catch who's who, because when they're there, they all become the condemned, so to speak. And it's how do you draw yourself through that? Lisa, I have to tell you, I have never been to a Holocaust movie or even read a book where I know I'm going to ugly cry. Okay. I know I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
And I met it head on. And I was surprised it took so long. I promised you I wouldn't tell you where my ugly cry was, but I will tell you that sitting in the theater at the premiere, I heard it. I heard the sniffles and I heard the sobs start at the same spot that I did. But I also ugly cried at the end. And I wasn't weeping out of heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
I was weeping from the heartache of the hope and the joy that came. I got to cry just telling you how they lead you through emotionally through this story.
Mm-hmm.
You leave filled with the same hope and the same joy that Maximilian Kolbe, they portray Maximilian Kolbe leading these men through into.
Okay.
I mean, it's the most desperate of situations, and it's just so brilliantly told.
It sounds like they're very successful in accomplishing what they were set out to do, which was to tell this story with the hope of God in the center of it, and for you to come away knowing that God is with you and that He can lead you through things, through struggles and horrible things.
Yeah, I've heard it compared to 12 Angry Men, in that primarily there's just this one setting. And then there's interactions between these men and how they change and interact with one another. But I want to say it doesn't all take place there. It's not a one-act play. It does start, and it starts, Lisa, I hate to give it to you, but it starts with the birds twittering. You'll love this. I really hoped you would see it before. But it starts with all that is good in life: young love, hope, joy, a future, love, just everything that is so beautiful about this world. And then it finally kind of throws you into the moment where they're being lined up and chosen. And then there are flashbacks throughout, so that you kind of get to know the characters and see where they come from and what they're really grieving. And I love the way that they handle each of the deaths, because at the end, it's very evident and very clear for you by the way that they portray it, that a person has died. It's just a bright light and a black background and an expression on their face. And then they move forward. But did you know how long they survived?
It was like a week.
It's miraculous, because most men die within 3 to 4 days. In fact, as the Nazis are putting them into the cell, they're taking bets on whether they'll last 3 or 4 days. The last of them, Lisa, the last 3 lasted 14 days.
Oh, goodness.
They did not die from the starvation. They died because they were injected with carbolic acid at the end to kill them. So it's beautiful. I can't give away anything else. I don't want to spoil any other parts of the story. But that's what's just amazing. So, I wanted to tell you that I also talked to a number of the actors that were there, and I've got another quote from two of them.
Okay.
This is Alex and Oleg, and they played Jon and Jonas. And I asked them how being in the movie affected them, like what did they learn about themselves? Because they also were, they filmed it chronologically, and they had to not eat. They really didn't eat very much. They had to fast and lose weight throughout the filming of the movie. So I think you'll hear that come across in what they say.
The way I process things, especially about the future, I often look forward with anxiety rather than, I don't know, hope or anything like that. So being in this world and being taught the lessons, I guess, of Maximilian Kolbe about hope and love and faith in some ways, and also being in the cell and in the difficult situation of not eating anything and in that kind of mindset of terror, and it made me realize that I had a lot to look forward to and a lot to go home to and a lot to be grateful for and thankful for. And it sort of is like, there was a crossroads in my life, and this film sent me on a path of, I guess, gratitude and, just now I feel like I can look forward to things rather than just worrying about them and knowing that they're much more difficult things to worry about than what I might have that's coming in my life,
I think my takeaway would be very simple: to become a better person and appreciate every day as it comes. And I also learned to appreciate food more. I'm very much serious. I live in a place where sometimes I forget to buy food, in advance. And when I open my cupboard, I see a couple of slices of bread and an apple. And I think to myself, that's enough for me to just to live another couple of days. That's just fine, and later I'll just hop on a bus and do my shopping. But yes, I do appreciate food more. I mean, I value it, so I'm not as choosy and picky as I was before. Yeah, that's it.
Were either of you familiar with St. Maximilian Kolbe's story before this project?
I actually wasn't, no. So doing a lot of research about him and being introduced to him through this film has been such a gift. And being able to experience or in some way give a voice to that moment in history that no one really knows what happened, to give an opportunity to those humans and let that voice be heard, it was amazing. And learning about Maximilian Kolbe's faith and hope and how he guided those men in some way through the most horrific situation that you can imagine possible was really quite amazing.
I didn't know about Maximilian Kolbe either before get cast for the film, but when I started to explore his world, I felt ashamed that I didn't know about him. That was such a discovery for me. Incredible.
Thank you both very much for your time.
Thank you, Shelly.
Thank you.
So I found it really interesting that this movie introduced St. Maximilian Kolbe to both of these actors. And there were others also who were not Polish actors. There are Polish actors, and they did know of St. Maximilian Kolbe. But it was really beautiful.
That's interesting you don't think about that from that perspective, that they didn't know who, I mean, I guess that's normal in a lot of movies. The actors don't know based on a true story, who the person was. And so they have to, in the process of making it, find out who he is. We just take it for granted that we already knew who he was. So I know that in real life, St. Maximilian Kolbe had a deep devotion to Our Lady, to Mary. And does she play a role in this film?
Yes. So we do see that story of how he came to know the Blessed Virgin Mary in a flashback. For those who don't know, he had a vision of Mary. She came to him and she offered him 2 crowns, one white for purity and one red for martyrdom. And she asked him to choose. And he said, I'll take both. And so he did become a priest. He was a Franciscan. and he worked in not only Poland, but he also spread the message to Japan and was in Nagasaki and came back to Poland. He ran a newspaper. He was your social media guy of the time. He ran a newspaper. He ran the radio. He was very present and very outspoken, and that's what got him on the list and had him arrested twice. The second time was his second step. Um, in the movie, also, you see him. I don't know if he's envisioning her, or if he's actually seeing her, but you do see her, and she doesn't speak. She's simply present, and she looks at him. And I don't want to give away something else that happens because it's kind of a powerful emotional moment. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
I appreciate you letting us watch it for ourselves. Thank you.
But when it happens, I kind of hesitated on bringing up the Mary perspective because I've heard this being promoted as a Catholic film, like Cabrini and Father Stu. But I will say, like those two movies also, I don't want it to do a disservice to the film to be out in the grand world as a Catholic film that has, might get some people to be biased against it just because of the label. I would argue that it's Catholic with a lowercase c and that it's universal because the men in there are of different faiths. And Father Kolbe brings something to everybody. And the story is about them as much as it is about him and what happened. It is a human interest story. It is about the human soul and the human heart. There's humor in it too. There's a quip in there where they're kind of introducing themselves a little bit reluctantly. And somebody's like, what is it? A rabbi, a Catholic, and a communist in the same place. Where's the punchline? And there are moments that are just there's a laughter moment.
So you bring up a good question. Who do you recommend to see this?
Everyone. Oh, okay. High school and up.
Okay.
I would not take. I mean, definitely, it's not just PG-13. I mean, if you have a very mature 13-year-old who maybe has already been introduced to the Holocaust, I think they introduced that in the 8th grade. I wouldn't go below that. There are scenes of resistance. There are acts of violence. There's degradation.
And what is the rating?
I don't know. Isn't that funny? I didn't even look.
I didn't either. That's so funny. But I'm glad you said that about the family friendly. But I was specifically asking about. I mean, are you saying anyone who's interested in
absolutely.
Yeah,
like I said,
a good Christian film.
It's a good person film. Religion really has no part in going to see this film. It is a beautiful story of the human soul and what we can achieve when we love one another. And yes, we as Christians, we recognize that as coming from Christ. And we seek it. We understand seeking it through the heart of Mary and letting her lead us to Christ. And they are present. And so I think that you don't have to be Christian, Jewish, Catholic to appreciate this film. Definitely, I think the Judeo-Christian side is going to identify with it stronger.
Okay.
But it's just powerful.
Do you want to transition now to talk a little bit more about the premiere and what you learned, on that aspect, or do you want to keep talking about the actual film?
No, I'll transition.
Okay, I'm afraid you're going to tell us too much.
Okay, so the premiere was held on Monday, September 8th at the University of Texas, Dallas, because the people who made the film are primarily in the Dallas area, and the movie was crowdfunded, I dare to say, primarily by a lot of people who are in that area and know these individuals and support them. Ironically, Lisa, a movie about St. Maximilian Kolbe, a great Marian saint with a deep devotion to Mary, premiered on September 8th, which we know is the Nativity of Our Lady. And it wasn't chosen that way. It was, they had asked for a date and it kept getting put off. And then it happened. They were given the date, and in all the hubbub and bustle, it took a while for them to realize it was Mary's birthday. So in the theater, at the end of the film, the writer, producer, director got up there and said this, and the entire theater sang Salve Regina.
Oh, wow.
It was so beautiful. I wish I knew all the words. I got like 3 lines in and I was like, okay, I don't know all the words. So I just sat there and embraced it and just enjoyed it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It
was really special.
You have a question, an answer from, let's see, was it one of the producers and how they got involved in the project?
Yeah. So this is a quote from the executive producer, Jeff Scheffelbein. Apologies if I've mispronounced his name. He's with the Undivided Life, but he's also a friend for them. And I asked him what was his role and why did he take on the project? And his answer was very interesting.
All right, well, let's listen to it in his words.
The very first role we had was to take it from not being a project to praying over Anthony and telling him to get going. And he told us what he needed because this thing had been sitting on the shelf. And we're like, Anthony, this is so good. God has ordained this. Let's go. But he couldn't do that alone. So we swooped in to be a team that not only gave some money, but also went and raised money through friends and family and just sharing this amazing moment of what we experienced, even in just reading the script. And Anthony has such a beautiful connection to the Holy Spirit. And I think that he already has many things in the works. Anything that Anthony's ever done in the 10 years I've known him, the 5 years Nick has known him, has always come out moving people. It's like movement comes from what he creates. It's not a film, it's an experience.
I like what he says. It's not a film, it's an experience. I should have just led with that. It's not just a film. It's something you have to experience.
Well, and I also like the way they just had to keep supporting him and praying through it and being part of it because they knew it was the Holy Spirit working through him and not just, just a friend with an idea. It was truly something they believed that was coming from God.
Yeah, that took me a little by surprise that they had to pray him through it.
I like that though, because so often you hear about people who have these ideas and then like they work really hard and it goes amazing and it all works. I like hearing that. I think everybody struggles with things, and so I like hearing that they struggled, they prayed, they, you know what I mean? It like was real versus, just magically happening. So I like hearing a friend's testimonial about it.
I have to say that someone asked me how I liked the premiere right after. And I said, you know what it felt like? It felt like a family party. And I think I even called it like the triumph of the family, because they did. This member of their family suffered, was inspired with this idea, developed it, put it on the shelf, was encouraged to bring it back out, was lifted up and supported, and it was family and friends, and that's us, that's the body of Christ. That's the church. That we are all brothers and sisters lifting each other up and supporting one another. And that's what really happened with this project. And I pray it is whatever success God ordains for it. Mm-hmm. That it reaches the people God tends to hear it, and it touches them and brings them hope in their suffering. Because that's kind of the message of the film. And to prove it, I want to put in another quote. So Anthony's father is Dr. They call him Dr. Italy. I'll just leave it that, because the name is Marcelino D'Ambrosio. And it's a very well-known name, I think, in a lot of Catholic places, and especially in the Dallas area. But he had the resources and the connections to really encourage his son. And I know that it comes out in the movie too. There's some insider bits that are in the movie, if you know about them. But let's hear what he answered when I asked him, what are you hoping people take away from this film?
I want people to take hope from the film, but I also want them to take the conviction that really sanctity is within reach for all of us. If we let the Lord work in our lives, we can be lights in the darkness to other people. I think this movie helps us understand how we can, in suffering with people, that's what compassion means, suffer with in Latin. By being with people in their suffering, we can transform that suffering. We can make it meaningful. We can lighten that load, like Simon of Cyrene carrying the cross for Jesus, you know? So I really think that this movie can change the way we relate to people, make us beacons of hope. That's what I'm hoping.
Thank you very much.
I like that he said beacons of hope.
Yes.
I like that.
And
that was nice.
What are the odds? The movie was finished and funded and released during the Jubilee Year of Hope.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I really like what you were saying earlier about the film before you played this clip. I loved this clip, but I like what you were saying about what success means, that you feel it means for this film. And I like that because that's a message that everybody struggles at one time or another. And just to be reminded that God is with us and that through our faith that he gives us hope. So I don't know, should we leave it there? Or do you have another something else you want to leave people with? Because I love the way we keep talking about hope.
Well, I hope that people are inspired to go and see the film. I don't know if we want to tack the trailer on at the end.
No, it's
probably
readily
not right,
available
but,
online.
Yeah. So I do want to say that the tagline they give for this is "Into Death and Beyond It," and there's a lot that I could unpack with that. But if you think about it, that you're being led into death, but Father Saint Maximilian Kolbe leads them to look beyond it. And I think I'd better stop. So
that's really beautiful.
But the tagline really is: a Catholic priest volunteers to join 9 men in a starvation bunker and fights to forge a brotherhood of hope in the darkest place on earth. Again, bringing it back to that we are all, our differences do not define us. Our love for one another does.
All right. Thank you, Shelly, for sharing your experience in the movie. And we encourage every one of you to find it in your local theater, because if we don't go out and watch these movies, they will not, we've got to encourage it so they'll make more great, good, wholesome films for people. The movie is called Triumph of the Heart. It premieres this weekend, September 12th. I had to think about what the date was. September 12th, 2025. So go see it at the theater so that it'll be there longer and more people will get to see it. And tell your friends.
I wanted to tell you about a way that they're releasing it. It's okay. I won't go into all the nitty-gritties that I've heard, but if you need to find a film, they're primarily right now at AMC theaters. They're at a very limited number of AMC theaters, so you will have to call your AMC theater and ask for it. If you go to triumphoftheheart.com/militia, or you Google Kolbe movie, and that's Kolbe movie, you will find a page that gives you all the links to AMC theaters, Fandango, or there's an option. You can get as many of your friends together, maybe your church groups, maybe your small groups, maybe the whole Knights of Columbus, whatever, and you can rent out a theater to show it.
Call your theater, look online, and go see it.
He's forming a militia of prayer, and he invites you to join him with it.
All right, dear listeners, thank you for being with us this week. And once you've seen the movie, let us know. And tell Shelly if she sobbed at the same place you did, and maybe she'll
Tell me
tell
where
you
you saw-
after we've.
Where was
we've
your
seen
ugly moment
it.
cry?
Where was your ugly moment cry? All right.
And was I right about the ending?
Okay. All right. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Shelly, for sharing this movie with us.
You're welcome. Oh, I should say, don't leave before the end of the credits. The final song at the end by Cimarelli is so wonderful. And the soundtrack doesn't get released until Friday the 12th as well. So I've already got it waiting to come into my Spotify. So.
All right. Perfect.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.